Hey guys, I'm back again, and yes, it's been a long one. It's been a couple weeks, 3 weeks I think, but I'm ready to get back to videos now. I've had a lot of work, a lot of things going on between recording for the podcast and doing a whole bunch of other stuff and work. It's been a little crazy. Work is about to rev up again, so it still might be a little crazy, but I'm going to still try to make it work. I have some videos to film, particularly my video concerning my book club choices here in Normandy. I know you guys like that video and it's coming, but it might be a series of 7 videos because it's a little complicated now the way we're doing this book club choices. So in order to make it something that is reasonably watchable, I'm going to do it in 7 videos. So you're going to get a sort of introductory of how we're choosing our books for the next year. And you'll get the first list, and then I'll do the 6 consecutive list as 6 different videos. So pray for me. Hopefully I can get all of that up and edited for you before we decide to choose, because we're going to be choosing in the beginning of June. So bear with me. I'm going to get that done. So what am I doing now? This is a haul video, and I'm showing you some of the books that I've acquired in the past 2 to 3 months. I don't foresee having to acquire many more in the next couple months because it's going to soon be in summer, but I don't think there's anything else that I'll need to. There might be one, but we're going to see, because I'm reading it. Currently, I'm reading it on Kindle. So depending on how that turns out will determine if I actually decide to go out and get that book physically. Because as you can see, I do have some room. Well, you can only see this shelf. I do have some room here, and I have some room all over this particular room. But it's not because I have room I feel like I need to fill it up right away. Because there are a lot of books, particularly on this shelf, that either are backlist and I will never read them again, or backlist and I still need to read them. So yeah. Anyway, let's get to the book haul. Hope you like this new situation that I have here. I'm actually sitting on a old French student desk that my daughter used to use when she was little. One of my daughters used to use it when she was little. And I still have the little chair. So I have the books on the little chair and I'm sitting on the desk. It's a really comfy desk. And, you know, so yeah. All right. So let me know how you like this setup, because this is what it's going to be. Hopefully this is where I will film all the time, you know, because this is probably the best place for me to do it. So let's start with the first book. I have The Concubine by Elechi Amadi. I purchased this book because I was in the process of looking for a book that fit a prompt for a reading challenge that I'm doing over on Instagram. It's called the Something Bookish Challenge. And the prompts are really good because it helps you read books that are outside of what maybe you would normally read, or get you to be, you know, wide in your choices. So they had one which was a book that was published in the year that you were born. So this is published the year I was born. And I was looking for this book and couldn't find it. And in fact, I found it here with Heinemann right here. And it's in this series right here. See, it says the African Writers Series. If you're looking for any African novels that you can't seem to find, look in Heinemann, because they have that African Writers Series and they usually have everything. It's a spanking brand new book. It didn't cost very much. And I'm so happy that I finally found it. So what is this about? It says, Iluma, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that name properly, a beautiful young widow of exemplary character, has the admiration of the entire community in which she lives, and especially of the hunter Equiame. Obedient to the expectations of the traditional society they belong to, they forswear their love so that Equiame can marry the girl to whom he has been betrothed since birth. But their passion is faded, and jealousy, a love potion, and the closeness of the spirit world lift this simple tale onto a tragic plane. So yeah, I can't wait to read this one. My next book, this one is called Percival Everett by Virgil Russell. By Percival Everett. So this is the next book that I'm going to be reading by Percival Everett, and this is because I am doing a author discovery with Percival Everett. So I read The Trees earlier. It was in March, and so now I'm going to read this one hopefully next month or July. I'm not really sure because I need to get back to reading his books. Thoroughly having a good time reading them though. So this one, it says, a father sits in his wheelchair at a nursing home and writes. When his son visits, each man tells the other stories to ward off pain and loneliness. But the details tangle, the plot threads twist, and soon a wild escapade down the halls of the nursing home calls into question all that has gone before. So yeah, this sounds very interesting, very mysterious, and it kind of has a feel of a book inside of a book, which I kind of like. Okay, the next book I have is this one. It's called Paradise by Abdulrazak Gurnah. Now, this was one of the possibilities for the Read So Lit book club pick for the month of March, or was it April? March, I think it was. This one didn't get picked, so I don't care. I will definitely read this one because this is an author I've been dying to read something from, and I picked this one because of the storyline. Sounds very, very interesting. Born in East Africa, Yusuf has few qualms about the journey he is to make. It never occurs to him to ask why he is accompanying Uncle Aziz or why the trip has been organized so suddenly, and he does not think to ask when he will be returning. But the truth is that his uncle is a rich and powerful merchant, and Yusuf has been pawned to him to pay his father's debts. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna have to get my mind right for this one. Okay, the next book on the list is The Promise by Damon Galgut. And this one was on the Booker list 2021. That's when I became aware of it and became interested in it. And eventually I finally purchased it. Now I'm going to try to read this one sometime this summer. It says, The Promise charts the crash and burn of a white South African family living on a farm outside Pretoria. The Swarts are gathering for Ma's funeral. The younger generation, Anton and Amor, detest everything the family stand for, not least the failed promise of the black woman who has worked for them her whole life. After years of service, Salome was promised her own house, her own land, yet somehow, as each decade passes, that promise remains unfulfilled. So yeah, this should be real interesting. So looking forward to having this be one of my summer reads. Okay, this is When We Were Birds by Ayanna Lloyd Banwo. Now this is the British edition, I think, of the book. Very beautiful, very colorful. Look at those end pages, how beautiful they are. Okay, now this book, it came out earlier this year, and I immediately became interested in it, but I haven't really, it hasn't been drawing me in to actually pick it up. So I'm going to see about this one because I have a feeling it's going to be steeped in a lot of magical realism, and that's something I struggle with depending on how it is presented to me. So we're going to see what this one is like. It says, Darwin is a down on his luck gravedigger. newly arrived in the city of Port Angeles to seek his fortune, young and beautiful and lost. Estranged from his mother and the Rastafari faith she taught him, he is convinced that the father he never met is waiting for him and somewhere amid these bustling streets. So, yeah. We're going to see. This could be real good. I've not heard a bad thing about it for the moment, but I haven't heard a lot about it either. Okay, next on my list I have Lauren Groff's Matrix. Now this one I was reading the month of March for the BookTube prize, and this was a no for me. I really wasn't that interested in what was going on in this book. The character of Mary, who takes over this convent and she turns it into a whole situation. The nuns are up to all kinds of shenanigans and stuff, but I just didn't seem to connect, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. But I think the reason why I couldn't connect with this one is because I really couldn't visualize anything that I was reading, and I didn't feel connected to the characters like I do when I really enjoy a book. And so I think there was some kind of disconnect for me. And I think I just don't connect well with Lauren Groff's writing, because this is the second book I've read by her. I did read her Fates and Furies. I couldn't connect with that book either. I couldn't connect with the characters. I couldn't connect the way she was telling the story. And I think it's a little bit the same with this one, sadly. It's not a long book, but it's just, I found it really hard to read. I forced myself to read this one really quickly because I was, every time I was picking it up, I felt myself falling asleep while I was reading it. So, yeah. Next on my list, I have Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. Now, this is the lovely British edition with that spoon on the front and the fork on the back, which I love it. I love it. And I love the colors and everything. So this book, I have been waiting for it to come out because I saw something about this last year and I was very anxious to get this book. And this month it's up to be the Read So Lit Book Club might be reading this one in June for its June pick, but they're in the process of voting at the moment, so I don't know if it's going to be Black Cake or the other book. But I personally will be reading this one next month, because next month is June Caribbean Heritage Month. So being that Charmaine Wilkerson is of Caribbean heritage, I think she's Jamaican roots. So I will be reading this one next month. So what's it all about? We know this is a generational family story, and I love that. I love that. It says here, Eleanor Bennett won't let her own death get in the way of the truth. So when the estranged children, Byron and Benny, reunite for her funeral in California, they discover a puzzling inheritance. First, a voice recording in which everything Byron and Benny ever knew about their family is upended. Their mother tells a tumultuous story about a headstrong young woman who escapes her island home under suspicion of murder, a story which cuts right to the heart of the rift that separated Byron and Benny. So this sounds like it's going to be full of a lot of messes going on here. This is some real family drama stuff. So yeah, that's Black Cake. Okay, the next book I have on my list is this one, which is Memphis by Tara M. Springfellow. And this is a gift from Penguin Random House US. And I read this so that I could interview the author, Tara M. Springfellow, and I did that over on Instagram. So, what's this book about? Summer 1995, 10-year-old Joan, her mother, and her younger sister flee her father's explosive temper and seek refuge at her mother's ancestral home in Memphis. This is not the first time violence has altered the course of the family's trajectory. Half a century earlier, Joan's grandfather built this majestic home in the historic Black neighborhood of Douglas, only to be lynched days after becoming the first Black homicide detective in the city. Joan tries to settle into her new life, but family secrets cast a longer shadow than any of them expected. Okay, so I did read this one a couple of weeks ago when it came out, and I had trouble with this one because it did not deliver what I expected it to deliver. I expected it to deliver family, multi-generational story about women, and it does it in the beginning, but it gets lost along the way, and the second half of the book becomes pinpointing historical events in U.S. history, which we've already heard about those events being used in stories constantly. And there's also some other issues with voice, because this is told in different voices, so the 4 different women's voices. One of them is told in the first person, and the other 3 are told in the third person. So the first person voice sounds like that voice. The other 3 all sound the same. Another problem I had with this one was the structure of the book was really weird. So instead of making the story linear, she decided to jump around in time. So, for example, here in the beginning of the novel, you go from 1995 with one person, then 1995 with another character. Then you go to 1978 with another character, and then 1978 with another character, and then back to 1995. And this is just like, it's too much on the brain trying to figure out why she's jumping around like this. I don't think it's effective. I thought it really dragged the novel down a lot. That and the fact that the voices don't sound different. If you're going to do different voices, for 4 or 5 different characters, they need to sound like whatever that character is supposed to sound like. Doesn't work really well if they all sound the same. It's not effective. So that's me. I gave this one a 2-star, because it doesn't bring what it says it's going to bring. And it's okay. I mean, it's a debut novel. Maybe her second novel will be better, but this ain't it. My next book that I'm going to talk about is George Saunders' A Swim in a Pond in the Rain. Okay, now I have not read ever a thing by George Saunders. So my podcast co-host, Christy, just was raving about this book and how great it is. So she said, girl, you need to get that book. Girl, you need to get that book. So now I got that book. When am I going to read that book? I don't know. Probably won't read this one until like September or something. Unless I can maybe read a little bit as I go along, because it's kind of book. It does focus on writing and stuff like that. So let me just read you a little bit so you can see what it's about, because I'm sure you've seen this book around and you're like, what's that about? Okay, so it says, for the last 20 years, George Saunders has been teaching a class on the Russian short story of his MFA students at Syracuse University. In A Swim in a Pond in the Rain, he shares a version of that class with us, offering some of what he and his students have discovered together over the years. Paired with the iconic short stories by Chekhov, Tolstoy, Gogol, the 7 essays in this book are intended for anyone interested in how fiction works and why it's more relevant than ever in these turbulent times. So there you have it. Now, if this can just get me into wanting to attempt Russian lit, I'm all for it, because me and Russian lit, we ain't got it like that for the moment. So this one is definitely something I would like to read. And it's probably going to be like a gradual read. It's not something that you engulf in one go. It's something that you really, you really need to read and study on a little bit. So I might start reading this one maybe at some point this month and maybe read it for the next couple of months. Okay, last but not least, I have Take My Hand by Dolan Perkins Valdez. Check that book out, how beautiful it is. This is the U.S. edition. Absolutely gorgeous. The UK edition, I don't know what happened with that. That cover is terrible. So this is a book that just came out at the beginning of May. So I think it came out like the 5th of May, something like that. And I immediately picked it up because I've been waiting for a minute for her new book to come out. I think it's been 5 or 6 years since Balm. So yeah, I'm just thrilled to death that it's here. Now, what's it about? So I'm going to read a little bit of the beginning because you can kind of maybe figure out what it's about without them actually really telling you. But it says, Montgomery, Alabama, 1973. Fresh out of nursing school, Sybil Townsend intends to make a difference, especially in her African American community. At the Montgomery Family Planning Clinic, she hopes to help women shape their destinies to make their own choices for their lives and bodies. Does it sound like something that's like we need to be discussing right now? But when her first week on the job takes her along a dusty country road to a worn-down one-room cabin, Sybil is shocked to learn that her new patients, Erica and India, are children, just 11 and 13 years old. Neither of the Williams sisters has even kissed a boy, but they are poor and black, and for those handling the family's welfare benefits, that's reason enough to have the girls on birth control. As Sybil grapples with her role, she takes India, Erica, and their family into her heart, until one day she arrives at their door to learn the unthinkable has happened, and nothing will ever be the same for any of them. You're going to have to get your mind right for this one, I think. But I can't wait to get this one. If I can read, I really want to read this one this month. But being how crazy my schedule is, I don't know what's going to happen, with this work schedule. So I'm going to definitely make a damn good effort to try to pick this one up this month. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed that book haul. And let me know how you like this setup. This is what I'm going to be working with because I think it's the most practical for me. And yeah, let me know what you're reading. If you've read any of these books and you think I should, read one before the other one, let me know what you think. And if you liked any of these or disliked any of these, let's chat. I'm back, y'all. So come on, let's chat. Bye.